Do you know Michael Jackson? Even if you hate music, you probably still know that name, right? From somewhere. Now think about BTS. If K-pop is your world, they feel like gods. Everywhere, all the time. To you personally. But if your YouTube is full of gaming, politics, or finance, BTS might barely appear, almost like a parallel universe. Same planet, same year. Different famous people depending on what your feed decides to constantly put in front of you. In the TV era, Michael Jackson was unavoidable. A global reference point you picked up even without trying or caring. Today, our icons are sliced by algorithm. Your celebrity map, your news map, your reality map all depend on your feed. Now YouTube drops Recap 2025, a shiny highlight reel of your year, your favorite channels, topics, and creators. It looks cute and nostalgic, like a Spotify wrapped for video. But it quietly answers a much deeper question about you. What kind of world did the algorithm build around you this year, and what did it decide you never needed to see? When Recap says, "These are the voices that matter to you," it also whispers, "And these are the voices we hid." In this video, we're not just talking about YouTube trends. We're dissecting how recommendation systems redraw our worldview today. And maybe by the end, your recap won't just feel charming or cringe. It'll feel like an X-ray of your information cage. Let's start with what YouTube Recap 2025 actually does. It takes your entire year and compresses it into pretty little cards. There's a card for your top creators, a card for your favorite topics, even a card that assigns you a viewer personality type. It feels like a friendly horoscope. You are a skill builder, an adventurer, or maybe the chaos gremlin of late-night rabbit holes. But underneath the cute labels, Recap is doing something serious. It's reverse engineering your habits to tell you who you supposedly are. It says this year you were into politics, or self-improvement, or mildly cursed meme compilations. These were your digital comfort foods. Most of us just screenshot the funniest card, post it on Instagram, and move on. But think about what's missing here. Recap never shows you the videos you almost clicked, or the perspectives you skipped, or the topics the algorithm quietly stopped recommending. It doesn't show you the people YouTube decided were not relevant enough for your personal universe of thumbnails and autoplay suggestions. And Recap isn't just about individuals. YouTube also publishes trending lists, top creators, top songs, top shorts, the year's defining moments. Those lists look like a global scoreboard, a hall of fame for attention. They suggest, this is what the world cared about. But remember our Michael Jackson and BTS example. Your world, my world, and someone else's world might barely overlap at all today. When Mr. Beast, BTS, or a political commentator tops those charts, it's tempting to think, everyone is watching this, literally everyone. In reality, what we're seeing is the aggregated shadow of millions of personalized feeds stitched together by one platform's particular algorithmic logic. Recap and the trending page together form a kind of platform-written yearbook, summarizing what mattered on YouTube's terms, not necessarily humanity's terms. That's our starting point. A platform that doesn't just display reality but curates, packages, and then proudly summarizes the reality it created. The next question is, how did we get from one shared media reality to this fractured landscape of personalized, algorithmically assembled worlds? To understand what changed, we have to rewind to the age of TV news, newspapers, and that mysterious object called a radio. So, back then, information arrived in fixed packages. The evening news gave you politics, economy, international affairs, sports, and weather in one bundle. You might only care about the sports, but you still heard about elections, wars, and interest rates during that broadcast. Newspapers were similar. To reach the comics page or sports section, you literally had to flip past politics, crime stories, and foreign news. Even if you weren't trying to be informed, the media menu forced some unwanted vegetables onto your informational plate every single day. That didn't magically make people wise, but it created a baseline, a shared layer of facts almost everyone vaguely recognized. When someone said, "Did you see the news last night?" there was a good chance you actually saw the same broadcast or headline. Now, fast forward to the platform era. Information doesn't arrive as a package, it arrives as an endless stream of tiny, personalized recommendations. Instead of one nightly news show, you get hundreds of videos competing, ranked by what the system predicts will hook you. If you never click on international news, the algorithm politely stops offering it. Why waste thumbnail real estate on things you keep ignoring? Global surveys now show that for younger adults, social and video platforms have overtaken TV as their main source of news and information. That means your front page isn't a newspaper anymore. It's whatever the homepage and recommendation columns of YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram decide. In the old world, you stumbled over topics you didn't care about simply because they were bundled beside the ones you liked. In the new world, the bundle is gone. Your informational diet is customized for engagement and removes anything you routinely ignore. Convenient, yes, but it quietly removes the random encounters with unfamiliar topics that used to stretch our curiosity beyond our narrow, natural interests. That's where filter bubbles start. Not with evil brainwashing, but with quiet decisions to stop bothering you with unclicked topics. We often imagine filter bubbles like a sci-fi brainwashing device. Watch 3 videos and suddenly you're an extremist living in a bunker. Reality is more boring and more dangerous. The research usually finds subtle shifts, small nudges that accumulate over months and years, not overnight. Many experiments show that if you lock people into a one-sided feed briefly, their stated political views barely move at all. But that's not how real life works. In reality, you and the algorithm dance together every day, step by step, click by click. The system learns what you click, what you finish, what you ignore, and steadily optimizes your feed for comfort and engagement. It notices that you stay longer on sarcastic political rants than on dry explainers, so ranty thumbnails slowly multiply on your homepage. It notices that angry, dramatic titles stop you closing the app, so recommendations tilt slightly toward outrage, conflict, and constant drama. One large study on YouTube's recommendations found that the platform doesn't always push you to the extremes, but it does favor familiar viewpoints. If you're already leaning left or right, your feed tilts toward content that feels safe, slowly reinforcing the borders of your worldview. Some researchers even argue the algorithm learns your emotional taste. If you binge doom-heavy content, the machine treats that as a useful signal. From its perspective, your fear and anger are just high engagement metrics. It doesn't care if you're informed, only if you continue watching. Put all of that together over a year, and Recap 2025 stops being cute. It becomes a fossil record of those nudges. It shows the creators who survived the invisible battle for your attention, and hides those who kept losing recommendation lotteries on your screen. It summarizes which moods, which topics, and which political angles successfully hijacked your brain chemistry at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. So no, YouTube probably isn't brainwashing you with one evil video. It's quietly curating who counts as normal inside your universe. And because the system optimizes for comfort and stickiness, normal slowly slides toward whatever keeps you most entertained, outraged, or emotionally addicted. The scary part is that the whole process feels like freedom of choice, yet it's really a collaboration with someone else's algorithm. So far, we've talked about videos and feeds, but let's zoom out to conversations, to the people around you, online and offline. In the offline world, you don't fully control your social circle. You're stuck with coworkers, family members, classmates, neighbors, and random acquaintances. That mix can be annoying, but it forces you to hear thoughts you wouldn't voluntarily subscribe to, especially during meals, meetings, and holidays. Everyone has that relative with wild conspiracies or that colleague obsessed with charts. You cannot mute them at real-life dinner. Those forced encounters weren't always fun, but they were training. They exercised your ability to handle disagreement without immediately blocking or rage quitting. Online, we finally got what we wished for: infinite choice. You can curate your timeline until almost everyone sounds reassuringly similar to you. If someone posts opinions that stress you out, you unfollow, mute, or block. If a subreddit annoys you, you leave and find another. Algorithms happily help by recommending more accounts, communities, and channels that look like the ones you already engaged with, deepening your comfort zone. Over time, your digital city becomes a gated community. You mostly talk to people sharing your humor, heroes, enemies, and fears. Researchers call that an echo chamber. Not just similar information, but similar people reinforcing each other's worldview, repeating the same jokes and fears. It's tempting to say, well, that's just human nature. And sure, we all like feeling understood. But the infrastructure now supercharges that tendency. In previous decades, your boss, neighbor, or in-laws acted as accidental diversity injections into your information diet, whether you liked it or not. Now those offline collisions are shrinking, and the online ones are heavily filtered. Disagreement becomes optional instead of a normal daily ingredient. A society that rarely practices real disagreement grows fragile. When a crisis hits, people are shocked. Others live in totally different realities. From the outside, it looks like polarization. From the inside, it feels like everyone I know thinks this way, so it's obvious. YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram don't invent that psychology, but they make it incredibly easy to harden that comforting illusion into concrete. And again, when you open Recap 2025, you're seeing highlights from a year spent mostly inside those softened, algorithmically stabilized social bubbles. Okay, Doombreak. Let's talk about what we can actually do, because this isn't a horror movie. It's a design problem. First, the good news. Recommendation systems don't have to shrink our worldview. They can be tuned for diversity as well as clicks. Instead of only maximizing watch time, an algorithm could quietly ask, have we shown enough different viewpoints, sources, and topics recently? Some news experiments suggest that small tweaks toward more diverse, credible sources can increase variety without completely killing engagement or satisfaction. In other words, platforms could redesign the menu. Still tasty, still personalized, but with more vegetables mixed beside the algorithmic junk food. Will they actually do that? Maybe someday when regulators push harder or enough users start demanding a healthier information diet in public. Until then, we still have one small superpower. We can click differently, a little more consciously, almost like informational weight training. That means occasionally searching for perspectives you usually avoid and subscribing to at least one channel that regularly challenges rather than flatters you. It means noticing when your homepage looks eerily homogeneous, then forcing the algorithm to recalculate by exploring something completely outside your usual categories. It also means protecting offline diversity, keeping relationships with people who don't share your politics or taste instead of retreating into purified communities. None of this will delete filter bubbles, but it can make them more porous, less like concrete walls and more like curtains. So here's a different way to look at your YouTube Recap 2025. Not just as a highlight reel, but as a diagnostic tool. Those top creators and topics don't just say, you like this? They also whisper, you barely left this corner of the internet. Ask yourself, which important things are obviously missing from my recap? Which voices, issues, or regions almost never appear on my screen? Treat that missing space like a blank spot on a fantasy map. Here be dragons, or at least ideas I've never explored. Yanas. Michael Jackson belonged to an era where everyone reluctantly shared part of the same soundtrack. BTS belongs to an era of fractured playlists. Your recap is the playlist of your world. The algorithm helped compose it, but you still hold the remote. What now?